Hello and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Publishing Land, the show that likes to take an irreverent look at the latest publishing news. I'm Marco.
I'm Tariffic.
And I'm Nadine.
And thanks for joining us all. I know those of you that tuned into the last episode will be desperate to know if I did manage to find cocktail attire. And I'm pleased.
Oh, yeah, what happened? What did you end up wearing?
I'm pleased to say that I was able to, pull off that Ryan Gosling look that I was.
Did you go for
going
it?
For.
Was it the blazer and the t-shirt?
And a t-shirt.
Blazer and t-shirt and trousers.
And it looked good?
And it looked good. Did I fit into the party? That's a different question.
What was everyone else
I
wearing?
love it. They were wearing a full tux.
Tails, yeah, kilts.
It wasn't tuxes, but yeah, there were a lot. To be fair, there was a lot of variety because clearly no one else knew what cocktails. But there was a lot of safe bets with just a suit, basically.
Yeah,
some with a suit without a tie and all this sort of stuff. But
it's the equivalent of jeans and a nice top.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I
think you made the right call. I think it's still classy. It's a bit relaxed. I think people will be like, there'll be guys in suits being like, I told you I could have worn that.
I'm pretty sure. Certainly, I saw a lot of people looking and sort of whispering about me. I'm sure that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah,
in Dumb and Dumber when they walk into the bar in the orange and blue tux, and everyone's like, those cool guys.
Yeah, that is exactly that was exactly the same reaction. That's what happened. But yes, obviously we are here to cover the latest developments in publishing news, and I think it's fair to say there doesn't seem to be in that much, or not that many topics, I guess. There have been some big stories, but not that many topics to cover. But we've got a few here, including one focusing on our favourite topic, AI, from a slightly different angle, we should say. So I'll maybe jump in with that one, and then we can go on to the other stories. But obviously, there's been a big thing about AI in writing, and in particular, how did the AI companies train their models? And basically, they took books from authors, fed their thousands of books from authors into their models to train the models, without asking, without licensing them, without asking for permission and all this sort of stuff now. And there's been a big argument in there have been a few cases going on in the States, and a big argument about whether that's fair use. Now, fair use, not to get too technical about it all, but fair use is a defence in the United States against copyright. It is not a defence in the United Kingdom or Europe, where fair dealing is sort of similar but not the same. So those are the arguments diverge there slightly. But in any event, in the US, there was a case involving Anthropic brought by some authors, and the judge had ruled actually that the training was fair use. Although if you read the judgment, I'm not sure if they fully understood, how these models worked and whether that was the right decision. But nevertheless, more pertinent to this story is that the judge did find that Anthropic had trained the model with these books from what is called sometimes a shadow library, basically a database of pirated books. And Anthropic are not the only company to have done this, it appears. There are other lawsuits ongoing that accuse other companies of the same thing. But the judge did find, in making that fair use ruling, that they had used this shadow library and allowed the claimants to form a class so that they could bring a class action, so that any author whose book was in the database that qualified as part of this class would then have a claim against Anthropic. And in the US, there's also statutory damages for doing something like this. So I think it was going to be $750 per book. Now, that worked out, some people worked out that was going to cost Anthropic $1 trillion.
Wow.
To pay out if every member of the class was found to have a claim. Now, Anthropic brought in new lawyers, and the new lawyers obviously said, the Anthropic and all these companies have been fighting all of these cases very hard and saying it's not breach of copyright, it's fair use, blah, blah, blah. But the new lawyers have obviously come in and given different advice. And last week, it was announced that settlement had been agreed in this particular case. Now, it's not been made clear what that settlement is. Hi, I'm just dropping in from the future because inevitably after we recorded this episode, the details of the settlement did appear in the press. So it turns out that the settlement is currently worth $1.5 billion, which amounts to about $3,000 for 500,000 works in this shadow library. Now, my understanding from the reports is that this could grow if other works that qualify are identified. The lawyers for the plaintiffs said that the settlement sends a powerful message to AI companies and creators alike that taking copyrighted works from these pirate websites is wrong. And it's the largest copyright recovery in history and the first in this AI era. Anthropic, as part of the settlement, also have to destroy downloaded copies of the books by the authors that accused of pirating, and they could also still face infringement claims for material produced by Anthropic and their model in the future. The response to that has been mixed, it's fair to say. I think a lot of people are pointing to the fact that Anthropic recently raised $13 billion in a round of funding, so $1.5 billion in the grand scheme of things isn't very much, is the argument. But of course, it is something, and it remains to be seen what happens in future cases as well, because this is obviously only a settlement, and it feels like the start of the battle rather than the end. But now, back to the pre-recorded episode. And, the lawyers for the claimants have said that it's a great victory for authors. And, it is a good step. It's not going to, because it's a settlement, it's not binding, obviously. So it doesn't set a precedent. So I suppose that's good from the AI company's point of view. They can still fight in these other cases and stuff like that. But it does show that there has been, or it certainly suggests that there has been advice given to Anthropic that suggests that their argument wasn't great and it was unlikely to succeed. So that is a positive thing, I think, for authors and other creatives.
So can I check? So the settlement that was reached between Anthropic, that's between them and the class action of the authors that were banded together in the States.
Yes.
So that must, I think that's right. I think that is a good sign in terms of sending out like a kind of signal that any other future claims will probably have to be settled because they're unlikely to succeed. And even if, as you say, Anthropic are not the only AI company who's been working with these books taken from the shadow library. So I'd imagine there's a whole bunch of other potential class actions about to come any minute now.
I mean, there are issues about who qualifies for the class because, for example, I know that I think to be part of the class, and you're automatically part of the class if you're in the class, if that makes sense. But you need to have,
I believe, is it?
Yeah,
the legal term for it.
You need to have had the book. The book has to have been registered with the Copyright Office in America. So if you're in the UK, for example, I know that lots of UK's authors' books are in this shadow library. There's a site where you can go and check if it was in this library.
This is the site that the Atlantic put a link to.
Yes, that's it,
yeah.
And we can put that in the podcast description. But a lot of authors' books won't have been registered with the Copyright Office in the US. Now that potentially opens up claims about should it have been. Do these authors then have a claim against their publisher for not doing that?
Well, this is the thing.
It means the class isn't quite as big as it seems. Yeah.
Because technically, I got US publisher, my UK publisher. So I haven't even checked. I'm assuming that my US publishers for my US editions would have registered my book with the Copyright Office in the States, but in the UK we don't have that requirement to register with, like, for example, a copyrights, the equivalent of Companies House. We don't have that. As soon as you create your work copyright
Yeah.
is there and it's protected. I don't know.
There's a link I saw, an easy way to check if you're registered or not. We can put a link in the podcast bio as well. For
But
this
what do you
week.
do? Do you sue your publisher, your US publisher, if they don't?
Well, I mean,
Well, it depends, but is there a duty?
I mean,
is there a
arguably,
duty on
there's
your
a class
publisher
action
to-
potentially there, isn't there?
But
as well?
but is there a duty on your US publisher to register you?
I imagine in your
I imagine it
contract
would be,
that
but-
there would be
I'll have to check.
there would be general wording that they're going to protect your copyright in some way or something.
But does
like
that mean?
But also-
I mean, does that mean if you've not registered? So in the US, if you don't register your book on the copyright, I could then come along. So say, Nadine, your book's not copyrighted, right, in the US. I
Yeah.
could then just take your book, put my name on it, and put it out again. 'Cause it's
No,
not,
because copyright.
No, I have copyright protection in the UK. I have copyright protection. So
but I could do that in the US though.
No,
If it's
no,
not been
because
registered.
because copyright. Because I think now, none of us are US lawyers here, but my understanding is that copyright still manifests in the same way in the US, i.e., the point of creation is the point that copyright manifests. It's just that they also have a register. It's like a belt and braces approach. So they have a register as well,
Okay.
and it's just how this class and this action has been defined is with reference to
Right, I see.
this
okay, so they've just
copyright
chosen
register.
to use that
So,
as the
so
benchmark
for this
to-
particular thing, then it has to to be
off.
part of the class. You
Okay.
have to be registered with the Copyright Office.
I
So,
mean,
yeah,
I mean, I just think, like, if I'm speaking like objectively, it's like authors. The issue with, I say, AI, with our books being used to train AIs, is the whole matter of consent, and that's what the issue is. It's like if you want to train it, okay, you want to use my book to train AI, fine, but you need to pay me for
Yeah.
it. You can't
Yeah,
just
yeah.
steal it. If
100%.
you want to argue, you can argue fair use and all that.
There would be
sort of stuff.
loads of
Take
authors
long.
who would say, "No problem, go for it."
Yeah.
If you get low, probably never that
But
much.
you've got-
They would accept.
But you've got no
a
sales.
fee.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but you got your book's not selling. It's like, well, you can use it to train AI, but you need
Well-
to do it with my permission.
I can see a world in which in the future it becomes a sort of standard clause essentially in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
contract, and you get a little bit of extra money to license it to be used in models or not. And if you don't want to
Yeah.
do that, then that's made clear, and you don't get that little extra bump in.
We've
in
certainly
whatever the
seen
money
that.
is.
Have you not seen a few publishers or one publisher?
Publishers have started to
saying
try
we
and
will offer
link
you a
up
flat
with,
fee.
yeah,
It was less
Well-
than £1,000, I think it was for
yeah.
Well, you did. When I think about, I'm trying to think back to like my contracts. Like you have the section dealing with ebooks, but also if it's selling your books in regards to like newspapers to use it for whatever article they want to use it for, or stage plays, there's some kind of licensing clause within the contract. So instead, I think it's just a matter of time before that extends
Yeah.
to AI, because it's not like AI is not going anywhere. I mean, that's the truth of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reality. And I think that's the difference, is that people sometimes, I think, get so caught up in the kind of moral arguments
Yeah.
that the reality of it's not going anywhere. It's out the bottle. It's here to stay. There's no point trying to pretend it doesn't exist. We do need to deal with the reality of the world.
Yeah,
as we find
no,
it, not how we want it to be.
yeah, you take a pragmatic view of these things. I mean, I think there is going to be a reckoning of, like, I don't think there's going to be all these AI companies. I think there is a bubble there, and it does seem to start.
It's
be starting
already
to
starting
burst.
to burst. I
But
think.
as a technology as a whole, I agree. I don't think it's going to go away entirely. So you now have to say, how are you going to move forward with it in some way?
I think what this case has probably done is that it's going to have UK authors or authors, non-US authors, looking at themselves, looking at their publishers, looking at their governments, and thinking, what are you doing in order to protect us, and how can we protect us? Because if you can make a claim in the States, that's all well and good, but what can we do?
But I mean, I'm surprised there's not really been a big UK push yet. Like there
It's
has been in the
weird.
States. I know they're more litigious, but
Yeah,
some
I
point
think
soon.
I wondered about it. I think it could be like, I think the fair use argument is harder for the LLM companies to argue here
Yes,
because
I'd
it doesn't
imagine.
exist. Essentially,
Yeah,
fair dealing is a very different thing. But I think it might be more established. It might be harder here to establish the loss element of the claim. Because just because your book's in a shadow library, you still have to prove an
You
actual
suffered a loss.
and that might be the
But I
hurdle
mean,
that is
how do
is more
movie
difficult
studios
to get
do
over.
it? Because they go after people sometimes who've downloaded films off,
Yeah.
you know, Pirate Bay, etc. You know, how do they
Yeah, no,
quantify their loss?
no, exactly. No, you would need to come up and show that there will be ways to do it. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying that in this country, I think that might be the difficult hurdle that needs to be overcome. But I don't understand why something like the Society of Authors or something like that isn't speaking to lawyers, isn't looking at because you can bring class actions in. Or I don't know what they're called in England and Wales, but in Scotland they're called group proceedings. You can do that.
Yeah,
you can do the same in England.
You can do the same in England and Wales.
Yeah. So it's and
as always,
I think this is a good news story for authors. It still remains to be seen what the settlement is and how it shakes out in relation to the other claims and how it shakes out around the world outside of the US. But I think it's good that these companies are starting to think, oh, hang on, we can't get away with these arguments that we've been trying to make for so long.
Yeah.
But if you, what do you think? Do you agree with us? Do you think that this is a good deal? Do you think that AI is here, that we do have to come up with a pragmatic solution to it, or do you think we should just not ever deal with them? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Email us, all of this sort of stuff. It'd be great to keep this debate going, which is we're bound to return to in the future.
Not going anywhere.
Exactly.
I mean, so far every episode it's
I know every episode. I think we're not talking about AI today, and here we are talking about AI.
But moving on, we're going to stay on a serious topic here. We're going to get a bit of US politics, in fact, involved.
We are very. Oh, is this me?
Yeah.
I always think when I get to talk about US politics, I'm like, my American Studies and History degree came into use. I can use my experience for podcasts. So, unless you've been living under a rock, when Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States, and during the election process, he kept talking about tariffs, imposing tariffs, came into office, and I think April of this year he imposed tariffs, and the publishing industry was unsure how it was going to affect them. Fast forward to the 29th of August, Donald Trump then basically cuts this clause, which is called a de minimis, I think, exemption, which means that there's no tax on small parcels under $800, which I think is equivalent to like £572. But now that he's cut this, he's got rid of it. A lot of the companies in the UK, whether it's companies like Gardeners or indie publishers, indie authors, if they're now sending parcels of their books to the States, there's going to be an added on tax on top of that. So now it's a question of, do they just, absorb those additional costs themselves, or do they pass them on to the customer? And at the moment, Royal Mail are no longer sending parcels to the States. So it's on pause. And when they do resume sending parcels to the States, you won't know. So if I send a parcel to a bookshop in I don't know, Texas, I won't know what the tax will be until 30 days after I've sent the parcel.
Okay.
So then what do I do? Do I then ring up this bookshop in Texas and say, I've sent you an invoice and I have to send you an addendum to the invoice?
Why is it 30 days afterwards?
I don't know why. I don't know why.
But my understanding was I could be completely wrong here. Is it not their problem? But is it not the receiving party's problem at that point, because the tariffs are charged on the importing, essentially?
Well, the tariffs are charged on the import. So this is why it all got into a mess during the election. No one quite understood. They're going to pass on the additional cost to the consumer. But I think for us sending parcels over, it was always tax-free. So when you get so when we send the parcels to the States, in addition to your normal shipping cost, there's now this extra tax on this. So we could pay it and say, listen, we're not going to pass it on to the customer. We'll just pay the additional tax. Or you can pass it on to the consumer. And most businesses are going to pass it on because they'll be operating at a loss. So when I was reading it, and I was just thinking about not necessarily like the big company, so maybe like a big company could absorb that loss if they're just, adding on an extra £2.95 to shipping. But I was thinking more about the indie publishers, because as when I think back to when I self-published, your books are being sold, everywhere. Your market is much more open than if you're traditionally published and you're dealing with each territory at a time. So I was sending books, like signed copies of books, to the States, and there was no additional cost to me. It was just shipping.
Yeah.
But if you're an indie now and you're looking to grow your market, grow your reach, are you going? You're potentially losing out on a massive market in terms of
Yeah.
readership and maintaining a relationship with them, because now you've got to think about, oh God, I've got to pay extra for shipping, and now I don't even know how much extra I'm going to pay because I've got to wait for another bill to come through in 30 days.
It really is. It really is kind of just making that whole small world kind of vibe more and more. Like everyone's kind of a bit more separated, a bit more of a hurdle to jump through for any kind of communication. It's just as you say, for the smaller, for the indie people, for the ones who can't afford to pay the extra potentially. They'll be like, well, maybe they'll just say, well, let's just not ship to America. We'll just keep it in the UK, and it's just becoming more insular and a bit more,
It's interesting as well, because there was another story this week in the bookseller about Penguin Random House saying that their profits were down due to rising costs, and I think Super Thursday, which is a sort of autumn release book, publishers were cutting back and things like that. So I think this is all part of the same story, essentially, is that, costs are rising. There's a lot more uncertainty about, how many books you're going to be able to sell abroad and all of this sort of stuff, or you're having to absorb these extra costs and all of these things. So, and so not only for indie writers, but I think that all of that will impact on what publishers are willing to do in terms of new deals for authors. They'll probably be more risk averse in terms of debuts and all of this sort of stuff. It's going to impact all throughout the industry, I think.
It kind of reminds me of back, I'm saying Brexit is a politics episode today, but when going back to Brexit, and prior to Brexit, I could send books off all over Europe. And it was just a normal, I'm saying a normal postage, as if I was posting within the UK. As soon as Brexit kicked in, postage increased. And I stopped sending, if I did a competition, I wouldn't open it to Europe, because it's costing me more money just to post a book to Belgium.
Yep.
It cost me the same amount to post a book to Belgium as if I was posting it to Japan, which was just crazy.
Insane.
So even now, I was talking about indie authors, even as traditionally published authors, you want to maintain your readership, grow your readership. It's all about maintaining that relationship. If you're holding a competition, you've been thinking, well, I can only keep it restricted to the UK, because if I open it to the UK, to the US, it's not just giving you a book, it's the postage and then the tax, and you're not going to ask a reader to pay the tax. For their prize.
Exactly.
It's all the little ways that it impacts stuff that go beyond the big name, like import, export. It's all the little stuff that trickles down that no one.
It's the little
ever
things.
thinks about. Yeah.
And it's frankly at a time when we are getting very political here, so we'll move on to a different story. As a time that cost of living generally is rising so much, so people are going to be more reluctant to spend money on things like books and luxuries, essentially. And so as these things increase in price, then that's only going to impact the authors even more. So.
But it even extends. I'm just thinking about it. It extends beyond authors. So look at most of us with podcasts and those who are offering membership tiers. And if you're offering membership tier 3, and that tier means that you get loads of merchandise and signed books. You've got to think about, okay, it's going to cost me now X amount to send this small parcel, because it's less. Well, there's no exemption. No matter even if the value of the parcel is 50 quid. You're thinking, well, I'm going to be paying an extra, tenner on top of the shipping to send this
it's
to
not worth it at that point.
The new member. So it impacts on everything.
You know what the real winners that might come out of this though? Ebooks.
Who?
Ebooks.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the push, physical media. There's a cost to it. There's a weight, a size. There's a cost to that, to shipping it. An ebook, attach an email, boom.
And audio.
Audio book as well. Yeah. Maybe this is going to lead to a real, a drop in your physical sales and your etc. But a boost to your audiobook, to your ebooks and your other digital products. Maybe
because more people are listening to audio.
Yeah. I should say, just to clarify, this is good news for Tarek. If you don't listen to page one, Tarek is a massive ebook advocate. Keeps trying to get people to pick ebooks.
I never knew that.
Nobody ever likes ebook. Everyone always picks rule books, and they're always like, "Oh, it smells so. I love the smell of the paper." Like some kind of weird.
I'm taking my ebook on holiday.
It's the
Does that help?
ebooks.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
So I'm. You know what? If MAGA make ebooks better, then
No.
go for it. Where's my red hat?
Let's bring this segment to a quick close and move on to.
Let's move on to
still the topic of money. Still the topic
still money.
of
Still money.
Staying on money, but this time money for authors and from perhaps an unlikely source.
Money from an unlikely source. No, not Donald Trump, but James Patterson, who's launched an initiative on behalf of emerging authors. So it's entitled Go Finish Your Book campaign, and he's offering up to $50,000 to help authors finish their manuscripts. So the idea behind it is that it takes some pressure off, or a lot of the pressure off, I imagine, if it's that much, off the writer to give them time and space to write. And there's been 12 recipients picked already, and this is all, I'm presuming, his own money that he's putting up to it. And I thought this is, it sounds like a very altruistic endeavour that he's launching, and I thought this might be quite a nice time to kind of chat about James Patterson in general, because he is obviously this complete powerhouse in the publishing world. He puts out dozens of books a year. He's famous for very heavily relying on co-writers to do much of the heavy lifting these days, and I know on Page One podcast we spoke with Adam Hamdy a few years back, who'd done a few books with James, and he said he loved it. He said it was a great experience, and I've chatted to a few other folk who also are very happy with the setup, and the setup when you work with James seems to be, I like how we call him James, we're like best buds.
Like he's your mate.
JP.
Jimmy. When you go to Jim and you say, and he comes to you and he says, I've got this idea for a story, and I've got some characters, and I've got some scenes to put in, and here's how it might work as a series, and that's a kind of the framework, and then you go off and you write the book for him, and I've no idea what the pay structure is. I can't remember. I'm sure Adam Hamdy told us, but
I can't remember.
When you're guaranteed to get loads of sales, whether you're getting royalties or it's just a flat fee, I can't remember. But everyone that I know that
but it's a good chance to get that bestseller thing that you can then
it's a bestseller thing. Yeah,
you can put that on your future book.
But can you use that individually?
So.
Yeah. I'm sure you can. Yeah,
because the good thing, to be fair to him, what he does is he'll always put that co-author's name.
Your name's
on
it's
the
obviously
book.
Smaller, but it's always in the front cover. It's not hidden away like a ghostwriter.
So you have your book has been a Sunday Times bestseller or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can then use that going forward for your own books.
And I was reading about, I was like, well, this seems like a very nice altruistic thing to do, and actually, it's not unusual for James. This is not the first time he's done this sort of thing. He has apparently given away millions of dollars to literacy programs, bookstores, and libraries. I had a wee look on Reddit, and I found an article saying that just at Christmas 24, just past there, he gave $500 holiday bonuses to staff at a whole number of bookstores in America across 3 or 4 cities. So I mean, I know the guy gets a lot of flack for the business model that he has, and arguably rightly so. It is a very weird. It's more like a kind of factory that kind of puts up books. It's not really an author in the traditional sense that it used to be when they first started out, etc. And I know some people don't like that. Fair enough, but it's maybe not all bad news. Maybe the fact he's making tons and tons of money, he does seem to be putting it back in, or at least some of it back into the industry, and that can only be a good thing, I think.
But what happens if they don't complete the book? They got to give the money back.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I know, like in Scotland, and I'm sure it's the same in UK wide, but I know that the Scottish, there's like various book trusts and stuff that you can apply for grants for £5,000, £6,000, £10,000 to say I need this money to allow me to take a year off work to finish this project, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you pitch it, and if you get it, I don't think they really care if the project's done. I think you just get a lump of money.
It's same like the Arts Council.
I think it'll be very much like the Arts Council stuff, exactly.
Yeah.
So I suspect Jimmy doesn't really mind what you do with it. He probably won't notice it.
He's not
digging
going
down
to
the
give you
back of the sofa.
£50,000. You call him Jimmy.
But yeah, I mean, what should I mean?
It's a nice thing.
What is a nice thing, and what's your views on him in general? Where do you stand on his book factory machine lifestyle?
I mean, I think you always want transparency. That's always what you want. And so I think what I take offence to is when I've heard him say, "Oh, I'm writing 30 books this year," and I'm like, "You're not writing 30 books this year.
You've had
You've
30
given
ideas
30
for books.
Yeah, you've had 30 ideas, and now you've got 30 writers writing this book." So I think I'm fine with it as long as there's transparency
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
around
that's fair.
it.
Yeah.
So
that's
yeah,
fair.
I mean that's the only issue. I mean, it was weird though when I first discovered him, and I wrote, when I read what was it, Along Came a Spider and Kissed the
Oh yeah,
Girls.
back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
and
those
I just
ones back. I remember
they were
loving them.
really they were really
Yeah.
good. They were really good. But I thought because the main character was black that it was a black author writing the book. And then and his picture was never on the book, and was never on the paperback in the copies that I had.
So how did you feel when you found out that he was white?
I felt a bit like, oh, okay, well that's a surprise. And then I don't know,
Is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing because I enjoyed books. It didn't take away my enjoyment from the books. I think what I took offence to later in life was the whole, white men in their 50s aren't getting book deals because
that was
given
I was
to.
going to say,
that's what I took offence
opinion.
to.
I mean, that's sort of an old white man's view. Unfortunately,
sitting on the porch.
Yeah,
looking
it's
at
like
the world.
saying things like that don't help. But I like you, Tarek, I wasn't aware of his altruistic nature with these programs and things like that. And yes, it's a bit of a joke that, the next James, have you read the latest James Patterson book? And everyone means the one that he didn't write. He has created some. It's a model that works, and it's a model that sells. Frankly, people like it.
Sales are nuts. People read these.
They'll just. But I don't think the reality is. I don't think people care.
No,
exactly. No, I
think
agree with that. I think that's the reality problem. Is that it's people like us who probably care more about this stuff than the average reader. We don't give a shit. They see James Patterson and big names. They know exactly what they're going to get. It'll be formulaic, etc. But it's a formula that they like, and they know they're going to be 20 books in every series he's got going. There's like 12, 20 books running, and they know they've got to have perfect holiday reads. So I think it's the one that I laugh at every time I see it advertised now is the James Patterson Michael Crichton book. Because I'm like, who wrote that?
We spoke about
one of them's dead, one of them does it right.
I think Tarek and I think either you and I spoke about that on my podcast, or I spoke about it on your podcast.
Oh, maybe,
and I think I take offence to that, really, because we got one writer who we know has a factory, and another writer, no thanks, I love Michael Crichton, who's dead. Yeah. I'm like, who wrote it? I take offence to that, but again, I think it went straight up.
Oh, it's two of the biggest names in publishing, right? On the cover of a book.
One's dead and one.
All you need is James Patterson, Michael Crichton, and John Grisham.
Oh, can you imagine that
trifecta?
Yeah.
That's it.
It's like an event. It's like a publishing event.
Exactly. It's sort of like it's almost like that. They've become more than authors. They're almost personalities in themselves. In their own way.
This is a weird question. Do you think, like, when you've been as successful as John Grisham, and I'm throwing James Patterson on the basis if he was writing his own books, do you think that you even have to try as hard when you
I don't think so.
With the next book?
I know James.
And do your publishers just accept?
Well, I often look at Stephen King nowadays, and I wonder how much, like, his books getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I wonder how much, like, most authors would not get away with books that are that written, and I think you could probably slim a good few hundred words off most of his books these days and get a tighter, better read. But I think they know they're good. They know it'll sell hundreds of millions of copies, etc. Like, I don't think
exactly. I think you're not going to push back as much if you're the publisher because you know it'll sell anyway.
Yeah.
So if the author digs their feet in, then it doesn't matter.
I know Grisham a few years ago now. I don't know if he did it again, but he definitely self-pubbed a book.
That's right.
That must have been. I mean, that must have been the money he made off that would have been massive because he's already this huge name, etc. Puts it himself. Nobody knows who's publishing it. Nobody cares.
It's like Brandon Patterson did the Kickstarter.
Very much.
Brandon Patterson. Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon Sanderson.
It's a new. But Brandon Sanderson did the Kickstarter, which was the biggest Kickstarter ever, and made like
Who would have thought that
$5
would be the
million
biggest
or
Kickstarter
whatever.
ever?
You know,
It's
weird.
like,
The whole industry, it's just, when you think about, I always say we look at publishing with rose tinted TV movie glasses on until you get in it and you realise the reality of it. But when you look at it now and you see how much it's changed, and technology's got a lot to do with that, but also how authors, make money as well. It's a weird,
And I think that most people you just said, most people who read books don't know and don't care, and it's not.
No,
it's not. I remember learning about the Rich and Judy Book Club, and which obviously back in the day when they were on TV was massive, and if you were picked, you were guaranteed to have huge sales because they were massive. They were on TV.
Sunday Times bestsellers, everything,
So
all your dreams.
and my assumption was always, well, you must submit your book to them, and them or a panel of readers will whittle it down to 12 or whatever it is, and they'll be there in the book club. And it's not. It's like you pay £20,000 and you get on the book club, and that's how it works. And you look at W.H. Smith, and they've got a bestseller charts, but it's not based on sales. It's based on each slot on the chart has a different price, and you buy a slot, and so like you learn about that stuff, and you're like, well, that's pretty distasteful. That's kind of I don't agree with that at all. But people don't care. People don't know, and people don't care. Like and maybe should they or should they not? I don't know, but I don't think that kind of stuff doesn't ever filter down to the public, and it doesn't.
Is there any curation at all there? Like if
I don't know.
If I was rich, could I say, here's £20,000, put me in the book club?
I suspect there must be some curation. There must be
there's an application. Someone must be filtering through these applications.
It can't just be anyone who pays £20,000. And I know nowadays, I can't imagine your £20,000 gets you a guaranteed £20,000 return.
No,
they're not as big, nowhere near as big as they were.
Yeah, definitely not. Well, there you go. I mean, I'm certainly going to look at this $50,000 to finish.
100%, man. Go for it.
I'm going to click.
Click
that link.
I mean, to be fair, it's no different to like applying for I'm just saying at uni, like applying for like a hardship.
True, yeah,
that's exactly what I thought.
That's all it is.
Just like an arts grant. It's just a sum of money you're getting to finish a piece of work you're doing.
It's nice to give back. So nice I will applaud him for that.
Thank you, James.
Thank you,
Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy P. What a guy.
Those were the stories we were going to cover this week, but we always end the podcast with our off-script section, and this in itself has developed a subsection, which is Nadine's stranger than fiction stories, dark inspiration. We've not got a title yet, but what have you got for us this week?
You know what? The same way we were saying it's a slow week in publishing, there's no stories. And I literally, the same thing with the dark stories that I always come across. Like, there's nothing happening. It's a very, very slow week. Until yesterday, I was minding my own business as I always am. Scrolling through Instagram, as I always am. And I came across a story of an 80, and it's a bit sad, but also a little bit, an 80-year-old woman sent money to an online fraudster, which they believe was part of a romance scam. And he told her he was an astronaut. And then, oh no, it gets better. He told her that he was an astronaut, sign you up, love of her life, told her that he's an astronaut. They met on social media. And then the astronaut, he's not even an astronaut, he told her that he was stuck in space and that he was and he was under attack. And in need
what? From who?
I don't.
Alien.
He never said.
Alien.
It has to be an alien.
Hugger.
So he's stuck in space. He's under attack, and he's in need of oxygen. Please send the money
so he can buy some oxygen.
I don't know. Pay off the attackers, the aliens.
Brilliant.
And she's transferred to him 1 million yen, which is the equivalent of 5,000 pounds. So on one hand, it is a bit like, this is sad. This is terrible.
I know it's
another romance scam, taking advantage of this elderly woman. But on the other hand, the way our brains work, you told this woman you were an astronaut and that you were stuck in space and under attack to send money.
If I was running a romance scam, why would that be my go-to story? Why would that be?
I mean, that sounds like it sounds like a first draft that you've come up with. It's not working.
I mean, well, I guess. The astronaut
bit, you'll be like, I could run with that. You know, that could work. But it's then I'm stuck in space and I'm under attack. How are you communicating? What sort of
He really
communication do you
pushed
And
have
what's he
with
going
this
to do with the
woman?
money in space? I don't. It's
He's gonna
How
go to
is
the
he
oxygen
getting
shop
it?
the oxygen shop.
and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
buy
yeah,
himself a few
that's right.
tanks, get back.
But who's But as we said, who is attacking him?
Yeah.
Is it the Russians? Is it,
I
don't
reckon.
know.
I reckon if you hook someone to that extent or at that point, when you
It doesn't
and
matter
you're
what
like,
you
I'm an
say.
astronaut, you can say anything. Yeah, you can say
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
you want.
I mean,
I think
these things are really, they are sad in the way that these people get caught up in them. Like I read,
Yeah.
I'm sure there was one I read on Reddit or something where, like, the guy's mum had become convinced that Hugh Jackman or some other movie star was
Oh.
emailing her, and
Yep.
was, they were in a love affair online, and she was sending money and all of this, and like the guy was like, "What do I do?" Because she won't listen to me, she won't believe me that it's not him. It's
And then, and then Hugh Jackman turned up.
and it was
at his
actually Hugh
birthday party
Jackman.
and was like, "What the fuck, man? Where's my money?"
I think there
Yeah,
was one
sadly
on,
not though.
there was a Netflix show that I watched, and I think it was either the equivalent. It was either Hugh Jackman or it was Gerard Butler
Right,
had
okay.
friended this woman on Facebook, and then she sent him money.
I know.
I
It's-
just-
I
Seems
guess
very
that it's a
easy,
classic
sadly,
scam,
that
isn't it?
to-
You do,
yeah, uh-huh.
you do it like 1,000 times a week, and you get 1% of folk biting, and you still make good money off it. And
I think
imagine
that's
AI will
probably-
make it even easier to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think that's why I
Write
did.
me 20
You'll get
emails
video.
of a
You'll get
relationship.
videos of Hugh
Yeah,
video
video.
calling you or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a voice clip of Hugh Grant saying, "I love you, Patty. Oxygen
Patty.
tank's getting a bit low." And
Hugh
I'm
Grant
under
and
attack.
Hugh Grant. I'm sorry, I'm combining stuff. I'm already creating my fiction. I'm going to do my own scam. So
I think that's why
Hugh
I did
Grant in
enjoy.
space.
Yeah, I did enjoy doing fraud cases when I was practicing, because there was a certain level of like, this is what you did and said to get away
Yeah.
with to an extent
Yeah.
with this. I was always fascinated by the people accused, alleged
Mm-hmm.
fraudsters. But this one, I just would like to think something for the minute, if I could accept you an astronaut, okay, you're an astronaut. But the minute you said you was under attack, I think something would
Yeah.
I would like to think something that would pull me back to reality, and that you need
The real-
oxygen. Why are you calling me?
I think the real people who are going to lose out on this stuff though are the astronauts up in the ISS who are just looking for love, and they're just, you don't want to trust them nowadays. No, they're burned. They're done.
Right
They
from
have to
left.
wait to get back to Earth. Their oxygen's running low. Everyone's like, fuck off.
This is what I did. And the reason why I refer to these stories and whatever this corner of our show is now. But it's like, what inspires you? This is the answer. Where do you get your ideas from?
Yeah.
Here.
I mean, that's almost unbelievable though, isn't it? That's like strange.
Yeah,
that is
but
stranger than
most-
fiction.
It's stranger than fiction, but it happens, and it become an idea. We're giving everyone watching and listening book ideas. This is
But
what you're
also,
getting from us.
it shows you that you don't need to worry about plot holes in your stories if people
No.
go for something like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's
If,
true.
if you
This
can
can
come up with
happen.
something like that and it's believable, then maybe the plot holes don't matter as much.
I would be
Um,
asking, where is your line manager? Like, why are you contacting me?
Put me on to Houston. I want to talk to.
That's why
talk to Fly.
they would move on from you to the next person
Yeah,
very
but-
quickly.
You wouldn't last
That's
long with me. I'll be like, what?
The other thing I wanted to discuss briefly was in relation to a clip I saw on Instagram, which was Ron Moore, who wrote and directed the Battlestar Galactica, the most recent version, the good version, and I think he's worked on Star Wars and Star Trek
For
and
All
various things over
Mankind,
the
yeah,
years.
Star Trek,
For All
Star Trek
Mankind,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Outlander, of
really
course.
massive, big, well-regarded name in that world. He's making, I think he's linked to and is now making a TV show based on the God of War video games. But the clip was him saying that he's never played the games, and he tried and he couldn't play them, but he's watched some of the, he's watched the cinematics. He likes the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, the father and son dynamic, and the story and stuff like that. But I looked at the comments on the Instagram video, and they were all like, "Oh my God, why is this guy attached? This guy knows nothing. Just play the game." Blah 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 blah. And like clearly none of them knew who he was or what he'd made and things like that. But it did bring up the question of like how when you're adapting one story to another medium, how much of that story do you need to have absorbed and know? Because I think of someone, we had Alex Garland on the podcast a while ago, and when he adapted Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, he said he read it. I think he read it once. Did he read the whole thing once? I'm not sure if he got through the whole thing, but he read it once and then threw the book across the room and said he didn't want to look at it ever again. And then he made his own film from it. Now, Jeff Vandermeer doesn't like the film adaptation, but a lot of people did like the film adaptation.
I thought it was great, yeah.
And it captured it captured a lot of what was in the book, but obviously it was very different as well. So, yeah, like, how important do you think it is that when someone takes, because they're different things. A book is different from a film, is different from a video game. What is the important part?
I think it's maybe different for a game compared to a book I think if you're adapting a book or you're remaking a film, you probably do need to have read it or watched it at least once, I think. And it's also very easy to do. It's a passive thing. You can sit and you can just do it. I think with games it is different, and I think what you take away from a game can be different. Like for instance, you might be rubbish at these kind of fast-paced action set pieces, video games, but love the story, and so well, and I think that's perfectly fine in that case to say, well, I have an understanding of what the story is, and there's a father-son dynamic, and it's Greek mythology, cool. I don't need to have played the game necessarily.
No, and to be honest, he can do what I do when I'm looking, not the cheat codes, I'm looking to find my way out of whatever temple it is I'm stuck on Jedi Fallen Order. You just go on YouTube. And
exactly.
100%.
You go in the search, and then someone will, they do the walkthrough. Yeah. And then I'm guaranteed there's a video on there for God of War, which is basically condensed the whole
100%.
story for you.
All the
so you don't
stitched together.
Yeah. You don't have... God, actually, I think my brother did that. He showed me one for whatever game it was, and it was just the whole story. All the cutscenes compiled together. So I don't think anyone should be getting their knickers in a twist about he hasn't played the game. Because I always say, I like to think I'm the best gamer in the world. I am not. I am rubbish. But I have fun, and I try very, very hard. I'm a trier. But,
you play an easy mode.
Oh, absolutely. If there was a pad one mode on Jedi, I would have just done that, but there wasn't. Like, I don't even bother trying to do Jedi mode. It's like I want to finish it.
Life is too short for
exactly.
Life is too short, and I want to finish the game. Yeah, I want to finish the game before I'm collecting my pension. So I'm not going to.
But loads of these games nowadays have a story mode. Have like where it is like it takes the challenge away just so you can experience the story. And
gaming may not be his thing. It doesn't, and that doesn't mean. And if gaming's not your thing, doesn't mean that you don't necessarily you don't understand story. It's different mediums of storytelling. You don't need to have played. It's like if they ask you to play every Assassin's Creed. You know how many Assassin's Creeds there are?
Yeah, exactly.
They're so samey. You play one, you've pretty much played them all anyway.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be up on Reddit.
No, he's made such good TV in the past.
He's Ron Moore,
Yeah, exactly. I'm confident that him and whatever team he's got are going to make a good adaptation of that.
What it is that the people critique having a moan about it, they need to probably leave the bedroom and leave their streaming and leave Twitch and go and discover other mediums of art.
Yeah.
Yes. Go and watch Battlestar Galactica or something.
Touch grass and watch Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of examples of folk who have come into franchises like Star Trek or whatever, and have never had any, didn't grow up watching it, don't have any great love for it, but are still able to make a perfectly good storyline.
But sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's great to get that outside perspective.
Yeah. It's not a
take
total
on that
fanboy.
universe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a balance to be struck. You don't want completely, but
you don't turn into something that's not. But I think, I agree. Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to take the emotion away. I think that's probably why, sometimes I think we probably both asked in our podcast, asked authors if they would adapt their own work, or if they have adapted their own work. And a lot of authors would be like, no, they're happy to let someone else do it, because you won't be able to see it. You'll be attached to so many different things.
100%.
Yeah. Also, fanboys this day and age are fucking awful. Like the fandom of so many IPs is just like poison. Like
Toxic.
I ignore what they say.
Tarek, I saw you tweeting about Alien Earth, which I've not watched yet.
love
I haven't seen
And
it yet.
You're loving it, but like I've seen big like Richard Cadre hated it.
Yeah,
and stuff
I've seen
like
a few people hate
you know,
it, but
so some
I
people hate it as well. So
I think
you
it's
get very
fantastic.
strong opinions on either side.
Yeah.
But
Everyone
Alien is
just
one-
needs
I
to
did-
just
yeah,
chill.
No, it's great.
Just chill.
That last episode last night. Oh my god, it was intense. I was like
Excellent.
toe squirmingly like horrible moments at some points. It was very good.
okay, well, hopefully this hasn't been too squirmingly horrible to watch. If you've, it might have been. If you've enjoyed it, if you enjoy the show, please do. First of all, tell people about it. It's still a new show. Really want to get the word out there. It's difficult to be found in all of the algorithms and stuff, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app. Please subscribe, follow, thumbs up, tell people. All of these things makes a huge difference to us, and will ensure that we continue to make these. We're going to be putting out sort of shorter clips from these episodes as well, so you can share those as well. That would be fantastic. We of course have our own podcasts. Page One, the Writers Podcast for me and Tarek. We have just finished our latest run of episodes, but the conversation with Nadine Matheson is about to come right back on. So
We are.
it's perfect timing.
It is.
Synergy.
I'm out on so when this goes out, my first episode of season 4 will be the following day. So it's perfect
Excellent.
timing.
Look at that. Brilliant.
Excellent. So yeah, so you can
Almost like
you
it was
can
planned.
exactly.
Who would have
all of this
thought?
you've always got content on STET Podcasts if you're a fan of writing and publishing. So sorry,
And you can talk to us. I was going to say, and don't forget to talk to us. You can message us
Yes.
on social
yes,
media.
Please do.
you
so
can
lonely.
message us on
I'm
social
just
We're very
Yeah.
lonely.
I'm up there circling the earth. Oxygen's getting a bit low.
No oxygen.
You know, if you wanna get in touch, that'd be great. And I've got a good sense of humour. I like long walks on the beach on any planet.
Tarek's off to write his scam, and I'm off to apply for $50,000. We'll see who gets that
We
money
see who
first.
makes the most money.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'm just the lawyer involved now. I don't know what other
Yeah,
role
exactly.
to play.
You're defending us. Okay, but we will be back. We will be back in a couple of weeks with our next episode of Adventures in Publishing Land.
See you later.